If I ate over a certain amount of food, I would purge it.
I was told to diet because I wasn't thin enough, and now I can't get out of it.
I just didn't eat.
Get on the scale in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening.
I felt guilty about what I
There's often
ate.
a history of
If I ate over a certain amount of food, I would purge it.
Anorexia is a problem with classical dance.
I started ballet when I was 7 years old.
I started dancing when I was 9 years old.
I'd always kind of displayed an interest in ballet.
A friend of mine had danced, and I used to go and watch her. So I used to beg my parents to let me go and take a dance class.
And there was really just something about ballet that completely captured me. I loved the music. I loved performing. I loved my ballet classes. There are no words to describe what ballet was to me when I was 8 years old, 9 years old. My ballet teacher actually welcomed one of her old ballet instructors to come and teach a master class at the studio. And he made a comment to my ballet teacher that I had it. Whatever it may have been was in the ballet world, the technique, the drive, the passion, the gift that some girls look for. And he said to my dance teacher, she has it, push her.
I auditioned for Pennsylvania Ballet. I got into their summer program, and I started taking class every day. And after that, I realized it was something I wanted to do. And I started dedicating my life to it. I started taking class. After that summer, I started taking class 3 or 4 days a week.
I missed school for ballet. I missed hours that, friends of mine were at a football game. I was in the ballet studio. I used to take 4 or 5 summer classes a week. When everybody else was at the beach, I would be in the ballet studio because that's where I wanted to be.
My name's Linda Hamilton, and I'm a clinical psychologist. I work with performing artists and certainly a lot of dancers.
I'm James Fayette. I'm the New York area dance executive for the American Guild of Musical Artists, and I represent the employment interests of both dancers and opera singers across the country.
I started dancing at the School of American Ballet when I was 8 years old, and Balanchine would come in and watch us, and he would decide who he wanted. And he just came in one day and picked me as an apprentice at 15, and I got in several months later. So the decision to go back to school coincided with my having an injury at the age of 26, being out for 3 months, going through a divorce, imagining what it would be like if I was 30, which you don't imagine until you get closer to it. I liked helping people, and I was very into the mind-body connection because of my injuries, and it just all sort of fell into place. And I also decided I really didn't want to just be a clinical psychologist. I wanted to be a psychologist who worked with performers and dancers. That was my world.
The reason I started dancing was basically my mom just put me in it. Shortly after, I started going to summer courses and started interacting with dancers who were pursuing this as a profession, going abroad, and then soon after I got accepted into the School of American Ballet. And it was about that time when I was working with dancers and teachers who were affiliated with the New York City Ballet that I really found a passion for the art of dancing, and I fell in love with it and was very blessed to have gotten offered a job to dance with the New York City Ballet. I retired from dancing when I was 35, a little over a year and a half ago. I was what we call AGMA delegate, which meant that I was responsible for kind of enforcing the contract, or just being the go-between between the union and management.
why do some people get eating disorders? If you look at it in a superficial way, you could say, well, some people are not naturally thin, and the dance world causes people to get eating disorders because they need to conform. But I know a number of dancers who were naturally thin who got them. And so it's much more than that. Yes, you are in a world that prizes being slender, and 4% of the population fits that naturally. But there are genetic vulnerabilities. There's often a history of anxiety or depression that coincides with this. So 1/3 of people with eating disorders are sexually abused.
I had also had a history of abuse in my past, so that also contributed to it. For me, it wasn't just solely coming from dance. I had, a double, two issues working. I think when you start to get to a point when you get to a certain level of dance, you become aware of certain things, and that's how it was for me. I mean, as you move up, it's no longer just about, just the dance. It's the whole package. And you just have to, the pressure's so much more. Like when I started to go to different programs, I would sing and I would compare myself, and I just felt that there was things I needed to do, and you would get comments from teachers as you'd move up, and you get roles. So that's kind of how I started to put it together. I just realized that I kind of had to, it wasn't just about the dancing anymore. It's about my body, and I had to have a certain look, and if I really wanted to make it, I had to have a certain, fit that mold.
Things actually progress pretty quick. Another old teacher of my ballet teacher came in and taught the class, and she said to my teacher, you have a very talented girl here, but she's too fat. And my dance teacher, point blank, said, you're beautiful and you're an amazing dancer, but you need to lose weight. So not only do you have the realistic pressure that every 9, 10, 11-year-old girl has on a daily basis, but then you have this added pressure of a teacher that you had looked up to and admired so much your entire, dance career, point blank tell you that you're heavy when you're just a 9-year-old little girl with a little extra, baby fat on it. I mean, I was never a tall, long, and lean, ballerina. I was always sort of like an athletic build. And to have somebody that you respected so much say this to you was sort of, life-changing, and sort of, it was big. It was a big moment for me. I just didn't eat. I didn't have a desire to eat, and I worked out. I worked out a lot.
I started just cutting out little things. I would, I used to just eat normally, and I would just cut out a soda, and I would go to juices and just things like that. And then it progressed to on the weekends not eating at all. And of course I'd be dancing. And it just progressively got worse over time, where I just, year after year, it started when I was about 14, 15. And by the time I was 17, I was probably only eating about 500 calories a day.
You have very high standards, organizational skills, you can work hard, but what can also happen is there can be a lot of self-doubt because the standards are too high, and there can be a lot of self-criticism. And so some people say all perfectionism is bad. I don't, but I kind of say there's good and there's maladaptive. I don't think anybody sits up one day and says, I want to have an eating disorder. And one of the things I learned when I first worked inpatient was how incredibly intelligent most women were, even when they weren't dancers who had developed eating disorders. I don't think it's a choice. It's a vulnerability. You think you're going on a diet. You're getting positive feedback from it, and somehow you get stuck.
A dance teacher brought down a costume that a girl who was significantly tinier than I was wore. She brought it down and she put me in it, and she couldn't close it at the time, and she said, you see this? You need to get so you can fit into this costume. And I remember walking into ballet class every day thinking, I gotta get in that costume, I gotta get in the costume, I gotta get in the costume. And what was really sick is the fact that the dressing room where all the dancers got dressed, the costumes were hung on the ceiling. So every day when I was in that dressing room, I would walk under that costume thinking, I gotta get in that costume, I gotta get in that costume. So it was literally, it hung above me every single day.
Right. Well, the thing is, I think it's a cumulative effect. It starts probably when they're students, and the thinner, taller student gets put in the front of the class, and they see the constant reinforcement of the idealistic ballerina body. And then when they make it into the professional company and the job of their dreams, and they're not getting to dance the roles that they want to dance, and they see that certain body types are getting that role, they're going to do things that are unhealthy, and they're going to take criticism about not being that idealistic very hard.
I would write down every single thing I ate. I would get on the scale in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. During high school, I would find reasons to go down to the nurse just to get on the scale. That number would determine my day. If it went up a half a pound, a quarter pound, anything, then my day was shot. I couldn't go to sleep at night until I would at least do about an hour of exercise. And I would, if I ate over a certain amount of food, I would purge it. That number for me was like 600 calories, so if I got to 600, then I'd have to purge. I also started using diuretics and laxatives. I was pretty bad at using them. I used to take almost a full box, and to the point where I was in the hospital for dehydration.
Certainly when you're young, you might not see the effects, but by the time you're getting into your 30s and you haven't been menstruating for a long time, you lose bone density, you set yourself up for osteoporosis, a big time problem with that. The longer you're doing it, the harder it is to get out of it, because it's like losing your best friend. And there's a lot of secondary gain. It's like, look what I can do. Maybe I can't control everything in my life, but I can control this. And how many people can starve themselves? So there's a certain pride in that. I think it's getting past the denial. I have a problem. There's sort of they call the spiral stairway to change. You accept that there's a problem, and then you start thinking about making a plan, and you go and you take action, and you have to have maintenance. So there are different tools that are at each stage, and there's potential for relapse all the time, and it doesn't matter. It's not about being perfect, it's seeing the triggers.
When I started college, I was no longer dancing, and I felt like a large part of my life was sort of taken away from me. I had spent my entire, childhood sort of fighting for this dream to be a ballerina, and suddenly I didn't have it anymore. And suddenly it was like, why I went through a complete identity crisis, because I had no idea who I was. I had no idea who I wanted to be. And ballet had been such a big part of my life for so long that I felt completely lost. It was like this idea of perfection was so ingrained in my head that the thought of possibly putting on 15 freshman pounds was the worst case scenario for me. That's what caused the relapse. It was the drive to be perfect because I felt like I had nowhere else to go. It was, well, you have to be perfect because that's all you've ever known.
I did have relapses. I had a number of relapses. I was in an inpatient program in a hospital for close to 60 days, a little less than 60 days. And all that time I wasn't dancing. So came out, went right back to dance. Probably shouldn't have, but I did and insisted on it. And that just set me right back. I would get better, and then I would start dancing, and I'd see my body, and I'd have to starve myself because I would think that I had to be a certain weight, and it just was a spiral. It was just this constant cycle. First, my parents got me help. They started taking me to therapists, but secretly I think I always wanted the help. I wanted to stop. I just was too afraid. I think I remember going to my dad one time saying I need help, and then like as soon as I'm like acting on it and going to get me help, I like retracted. I was like, I don't need any help. I'm fine. And I realized I'd already lost a major dream of mine, and I wasn't going to get it back. So I already realized that that dream was pretty much gone, and I was part of that reason.
One day I woke up and something snapped in me. I was like, is this how you want to live the rest of your life? Do you want to go to bed hungry? Do you want to wake up hungry? Do you want to spend the rest of your life being hungry? Like, is this it? This sucks. I mean, I know that some people have to go through long-term therapy. I know that but that wasn't me. I just said to myself, this is not who I want to be. I do not want to be the anorexic girl. I want to be the girl who lives her life to the fullest. I'm not the little girl who's afraid to stand in front of the mirror because she's afraid to look at herself. It's embarrassing to think that I let a ballet teacher hurt me so bad that I carried it with me all the way to college.
The hard part is that because most people are so smart who have eating disorders, they think they can work their way out of it on their own. And that's where the hard part is to let go of that control and say, I need help. Maybe I need, more than a therapist.
First of all, most companies are associated with a school in some way, shape, or form, and the education needs to happen in those schools, which is happening. A lot of schools currently have nutrition programs. Some nutritionists or somebody to be educating these dancers. Also, there needs to be some kind of psychiatry or psychological advisement, someone that they can talk to, somebody that's familiar with these problems. Where they can, find help, because it's not just a nutritional issue. I mean, you can understand calories and, grams of fat all you want. It's really a self-esteem issue that, has to be dealt with, with the appropriate professionals. And companies are kind of engaging the medical community to get them involved. And more importantly, the medical community is very interested in being involved with dance companies and helping them.
It's not going to help you to be rail thin. The choreography is too hard right now. And you're going to set yourself up for injuries, stress fractures particularly, because you won't menstruate. So I try to show them that you want to be thinner, there are good ways to do it, where it won't, ruin your career, it won't take away something you love. And actually, that's one of the biggest motivators when I'm working with a company and I have a dancer who has an eating disorder, is to have them sit out and not let them dance, and not let them exercise until they gain. Could be the lowest healthy weight. I see everything in the dance world getting better, because there's so much that's changed just in the last 5 years. First of all, we have dance medicine now, and there were two separate worlds. There was dance medicine, and then there was the dance community, and I believe there's now a bridge, and there's a sharing of information, and I can only see it getting better because the directors are opening the doors and letting healthcare professionals in.
Unfortunately, I do not see the image changing dramatically anytime soon. I think the expectation of a tall, thin ballerina is going to be with us for a long time.
The dance community needs to be educated about weight management, about eating disorders, about the problems that dancers can fall into because they tend to be perfectionists, about the fact that one comment when you're dealing with a young, vulnerable adolescent girl who may be gaining weight right before she goes through puberty, it means nothing.
I really got in touch with who I am. I really reconnected with a lot of my old friends. It was really sort of about getting my life back. I love my body now. I love the way that I look. I like the way that clothes look on me. I like what I see when I look in the mirror. It's no longer about what size jeans am I wearing? Who cares about the size? I'm going to close this chapter of my life, and I'm going to move on.
I have not used a scale in 6 years. I'm going on 7 years of, I like to say, symptom-free of my eating disorder. I'm extremely happy. Since the time I've recovered, I've had 2 little boys who are just my pride and joy that I live for every day. And I don't think about relapsing at all, because when I look at them, I could never do that to them, ever. They are my pride and joy, and they're so beautiful and so special, and they deserve so much in life that, they make me want to live. And I never want to go back to that. That wasn't living, that wasn't a life, and to me it feels like it was such a dark period in my life. And now I feel like almost like I came out of like a fog. Then I decided that I just wanted to go back and take dance for myself, and that's where I'm at now, is just taking classes for pure enjoyment and just for the love of it.